Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Munch, munch, munch.
Hello and welcome to Daddy Eats Last, where we discuss the challenges of being a man in modern society and whatever the hell that even means. I'm Kane, and joining me tonight are both Ryan and Matty. Gents, we haven't been together for a while online. How the hell are you?
Doing well, mate. Doing well. Got another few more days in paradise here in the south of Spain. Before I head back to Cambridge and go and freeze my ass off there. So just relishing in it at the moment.
And you're flying solo as well, aren't you? So it's not only you're in Spain, you're in Spain by yourself.
Yeah, I've had to do all my own cooking and cleaning and look after myself. But no, TK had to get back to London for a little bit of work. But we'll be rendezvousing very soon in Cambridge, which will be nice. But it has been good to just have a bit of downtime, to be honest. I've been working some pretty long hours and studying, so it's nothing too exciting in terms of a bachelor life, apart from ordering pizza in.
Mate, you have unlimited tapas there and sangria, so you have access to all the good things in life, and it can run on a beach, so it can't all be that bad.
No, the beach runs are definitely a way to start the day, that's for sure.
What about you, Matthew? You've been going to a beach also for other reasons.
Yeah, we went to our weekly Nippers adventure this morning, which, as you've mentioned before, is a good hour and a half where we currently are. But yeah, the kids had a great time. I probably had a better time than the kids today, actually. I was out on Mia's longboard catching some waves and telling people to get off my wave and things of that nature. But yeah, it was a really good day.
What was the temperature up in Brisbane today for Nippers?
Today was 25. So, which I said to Ken, that's probably the coolest it's going to be, given the fact that we're heading into mid-November, December, January. So the water temp was lovely, so it can't get any worse than that.
Well, our little fella started Nippers yesterday, and it was 25 yesterday, but next week's forecast on Saturday is 14 degrees. So yeah, good luck to the Nippers down here in Melbourne next weekend.
Victoria Nippers would make the kids tough.
That is true.
Especially, yeah.
All about resilience, that's for sure. He was a bit up and down with it. Like, you like parts of it, he didn't like other parts of it. But I said to him, mate, we're in for 11 weeks. We're probably going to have to go to 10 of them. There's one over Christmas you'll probably miss. Once you sign up, you got to just keep going. Even if you don't like it, you get through it and then just don't do it again.
It's all about commitment.
It is. What I thought we would talk about tonight is tomorrow it is 1 year. One whole year since I had my last drink of alcohol. So we just talk about alcohol in general. But if you want to ask me any questions about, I guess, the last 12 months of being in lockdown and not partaking in alcoholic beverages, because I do love them. I'm not one of those people like, oh, yeah, no, not drinking. Everyone should not drink. I've drank a lot of booze in my life. So, yeah, it probably wasn't the easiest thing to do, but I'm a year in and see how we go from here. But alcohol. Is it the cause of and solution to all of life's problems, as per Homer J. Simpson?
Love Homer's quote there. There certainly is. How are you feeling a year in? Like, that's fantastic. And I do know that, yeah, you do like to partake in a very nice glass of red. So how are you feeling a year in? What's the biggest change you've noticed, if any?
Yeah, honestly, I reckon the best thing is just sort of just consistently feel the same most days. There's not sort of ups and downs, or you wake up in the morning after having maybe one too many or a couple of beers and you feel a bit shabby, because alcohol does kind of affect your sleep, even if you only have like a glass or two glasses of wine. So it's probably that more than anything. I probably slept better, and that over the course of 12 months has probably compounded. So I feel really good during a day, if that makes sense.
You're generally a guy who, as you've mentioned on this podcast before, who has a nice routine of getting up early or before the rest of the family and doing some exercise. Have you noticed that no alcohol at all has given you more energy as such to do these kind of activities, or you last longer during the day? You feel more energized, say, at 7 o'clock at night than you would if you had been having a couple of glasses of wine or whatever you'd normally have?
Yeah, at night, maybe not so much because I'm probably getting up slightly earlier. But I'm probably not as maybe groggy in the morning because it doesn't take me as long to get going as it maybe did, where it's just kind of, okay, I wake up, I spend a couple of minutes checking emails, and then I'll just go and do my activity or whatever. And then I don't sort of hit that. I don't really hit a lull until maybe the afternoon. Like until probably early afternoon, I don't get, it's not a lumpy sort of morning where usually I used to hit the wall at sort of 9 o'clock and then 11. It was a very sort of, energy up, energy down sort of morning. I just don't seem to go off the cliff until early afternoon now. Then, I start feeling better again. And then sort of 8, 9 o'clock, I'm almost ready for bed. But I'm only linking that back to probably sleeping better as well. I probably have a much better quality of sleep than I would have going back, 12 months ago and before that, when I used to probably drank a lot more than I do now.
What's been the worst thing then about doing it? Obviously, there's some good things. I mean, I look to take a month off every year at least, usually January, because it back ends the end of all the December celebrations. But a year would definitely change things. But what's been the worst or hardest part of it?
Well, I reckon it's how a glass of wine or two, or a beer or two, or whatever your drink of choice is, those probably 3 or 4 standard drinks at the end of a day can change your mood. Like you have a really terrible day at work or a terrible day doing stuff, or a really draining day, or your kid's been a pain in the backside, and you have a couple of wines and, it doesn't solve the problem, but the problem kind of goes away. That's probably harder, especially on the back of lockdown when we had the little fella home for extended periods where you just the same thing day after day. And there'd be days where he was just a pain in the bum. There weren't that many of them, but there were days where he was very testing. And they would be the days where I'd usually go, I'd smash a glass or two of red wine at sort of 5 p.m. So yeah, that was a challenge, especially seeing Victoria is the most locked down jurisdiction in the whole world. And most of that has been over the last 12 months.
Did you find that you were calmer by not drinking, or that you were actually more agitated because you couldn't just take the edge off?
That's a tough one. It's funny because you're not kind of covering your emotions, or you're covering the way you work through things. Like it was easy. I used to get to 5 o'clock and go, I'm going to have a couple of beers, a couple of wines. Like, going back sort of 10 years ago, I'd have a bottle of wine, like on a weeknight. So, I'd even pared it back, sort of going back, sort of maybe 2 years ago. But I just found booze is a really easy way for me to sort of, I say cope, but then to cover up stuff as well. So instead of actually going, okay, what's the real problem here? And what's caused that problem? How do I solve that problem? I just go, three glasses of wine, who cares? I'll think about it, the next time it happens.
I reckon this year for me, I've probably not drunk. Well, I probably had drunk more this year than any other year. But even saying that, I'm not a heavy drinker. I'm never really want to drink midweek. It's more so on the weekends. But we live in a street where there's a few families who have the same age kids as us, and they happen to go to the same school as well. So we tend to socialise a bit on a Friday night, or maybe not so much on a Saturday night now with nippers, and sometimes on a Sunday. And it was just getting to the point where you'd wake up on a Monday morning, and like you mentioned there, Kane, about the quality of sleep, you even if you'd had on a Sunday 2 or 3, you'd know that you'd been drinking, and the mornings were just, worse for it. And it was a terrible way to sort of start the week. You get to mid Monday afternoon, you weren't as productive, and you just say to yourself, look, this is a bit, this can't keep going on. So I've decided, as you do January, Ryan, I've decided pre-Christmas to do November, off the back of what you're doing as well, Kane, just to try and reset, get a great quality sleep and exercise regime going in November. No beers, no Diet Cokes, and then December 1, running. Yeah, well, no Diet Cokes either, because I'm trying to. I've got a bit of that, that dad bod. You wouldn't know about that, you Ryan, but Kane, you're pretty fit as well, so you probably don't know either. But the old excess beer is sort of sitting around the bottom of the belly, so I'm trying to not so much exercise, but more so on the diet front.
Now, are you also going to give up the caramel 12s and the 12s over that pays, or are they going to be your one vice?
I was just at my brother's this evening before we went on air, and he gave me a 12-pack of 12s because he had too much for Halloween, and I ate 6 on the way home, so I'm halfway through. So, and I get home and the half packet's gone, and the kids are like, "Where's the other 6?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah."
I only got 6. Well, I was only given 6.
I only got 6.
Yeah.
It's these new 6-packs of 12s. Like, yeah.
But the thing with all this, like I've managed not to do anything for 12 months, but I'm not going to judge somebody else's drinking habits, because I've totally had my, fair suck of the bottle over time, and pun totally intended there. Like, I was kind of thinking about it today, because it's on the back of sort of like the whole year. Some of the just random stuff that I've done when I've been drinking, or being able to do despite drinking. I was kind of fully functional despite drinking as much as I used to drink. So I'm totally not going to judge anyone. This is just a personal decision that I thought, I'll have a crack and see how it goes. And after a month or 6 weeks, it got a lot easier, because you kind of I broke the habit. And it's just like, I just kept going, and the 12 months have gone pretty quick, to be honest.
Will you find once, Victoria's or borders, and it gets a bit more free movement, and birthday parties start to resume, 40th, 50th, all that kind of weddings, how do you think you'll go there?
That's probably where it gets a bit harder. And I've got a engagement party coming up in around a month's time. That'll be the first sort of probably test, and then leading into Christmas again. Like we've had Christmas last year and birthdays where we could still do stuff, and it hasn't really been a thing. But yeah, going to like a work function, like, I went to one corporate lunch over the last sort of 2 years, and that was earlier in March this year. I didn't have a drink then, and it was okay. But if things like that sort of pick up, then I don't know. Yeah, I'm not saying that I'm never going to drink again. I'm not that strong on this sort of stuff, but I just don't know. Like I'm sure I'll break at some point. That sweet nectar will just be too delicious, and I won't be able to resist it.
Yeah, it's those things, isn't it? The Melbourne Cup, the corporate functions, the weddings, etc. That I think would be quite challenging.
It was funny. I remember when my dad's 60th, and that would have been going back sort of 7 years ago. I'd had 100 odd days of not drinking then, and like everyone was asking my wife. She wasn't my wife at the time. I don't think she was. I'm pretty sure she wasn't my wife at the time, but everyone was asking her, why is he not drinking? They thought there was something wrong with me. Like it was that sort of like, if you're not drinking, what's wrong with you? It's a really odd thing.
Are they so used to seeing you with a beer in your hand?
Well, that's the thing. I didn't drink that much around my family anyway. Like I very rarely, like my dad I'll come around and go, do you want a drink? He'll ask if I want a drink. And my brother-in-law will always say, yeah, let's have a beer, even if it's like, 10:30 in the morning. But I never really drink that much, apart from one Christmas where I had a bottle of red wine. It was the best Christmas I've ever been to. I never drank that much around them anyway. So it was an odd question from them, but it just, because I hadn't had a drink for a while. It was just because that seems really unusual in our culture.
Yeah, I think there is a big cultural thing, especially in Australia and like the UK and that kind of thing. I think it is slowly softening though. Like I find when I started to do, I think I did like dry July years ago, like probably 6-7 years ago now, and people were just shocked on it. Like they're like, oh, why are you doing that? And etc. Will a month make any difference, etc. But I think now, like, people are pretty just like, oh yeah, you do one month off, that's really cool, maybe I should do that. Just generally, I think it makes you, like, I quite enjoy a drink, but it makes you go, I'll have 2 glasses of wine versus a bottle when you do, because I noticed, like, in terms of getting up and going for a run in the morning, in that month off, it is so much easier.
Yeah, there are so many benefits. In all honesty, I never even looked at the benefits. It was never sort of a conscious decision, and it wasn't a superficial decision. It's probably a whole bunch of things combined more than anything, where I kind of thought, you want to change some things I wasn't really happy with. I'd sleep better. I was getting a bit older. My kid had also a couple of times, like we walked past a bottle shop. He goes, "Oh, Daddy, that is the wine shop. Should we go in?" I'm like, okay, maybe I'm normalizing, the too frequent consumption of booze. So there's a whole bunch of triggers. But yeah, maybe when the little fella was on about the wine shop, I thought, oh, maybe we might need to ease off on that. And in fairness, he hasn't really mentioned it, probably over the last 6 months. So yeah, maybe he's forgotten that sort of thing. There's that normalization of, oh, Daddy's having a wine at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, that's interesting. How do you, I mean, I don't have kids yet, but how do you sort of think and go with with that, like I do wonder actually, should you maybe wait till they go to bed or something? I don't know.
Yeah, we're lucky enough to have like a tiny butler's pantry. So it's a pantry which has a door on it. So it's very easy to close the door and have a glass of wine. Or my wife's the odd time now where she'll have a glass of wine. We've got I've got a like a thermos sort of cup. So it keeps things warm or cold and you can't see through it. So you can't see what liquid is in there. So it could be red wine, could be champagne, could be white wine, and the little fella can't see it. So yeah.
You could always say to the little fella, I'm drinking within the government regulated guidelines. So
I could. He understands
4 standard drinks a week.
He understands speed limits and he understands the COVID rules. So he'd probably be cool if I explained to him like as long as you do it within these sort of things. But we actually had a politician down here last week, Tim Smith from the Liberal Party, who was drink driving. It was in the news because he had to quit he ended up quitting politics at the next election because he was asked to. Which we won't talk about that being maybe an overreaction and sort of cancel culture, but then it came up when we were talking about, and the little fella asked, "Oh, what are you talking about?" We said, "Oh, this guy, he had alcohol and he drove and he crashed his car because that's what happens." So just even those little introduction points of things which happen in the news allow you to sort of bring not normalization of alcohol because everyone's probably going to have a drink at some point, but just sort of discuss it as a thing.
Yeah, it's quite a good one. Actually, to normalize, I guess that, it is not great. I mean, maybe an overreaction in terms of having to give up your career there, but definitely not a good stance.
No. The other thing is like when a little fella's 5, like when he gets to 13, 14, it'll probably be a different conversation. It might be, hey, have a tiny taste of wine with your dinner or have a little bit of beer with your dinner. So it's not like, okay, alcohol's this bad thing. And when I go out, I'm going to drink so much, like when I'm not my parents, because they won't let me do something. We kind of normalize it in a sort of a structured way rather than seeing consumption. And when I get to 13, I'm just going to, or 14 or 15, I'm just going to, dive right in. I don't know. There's no right way of approaching it. Maybe it's just me overthinking it as well. And I haven't spoken to that with my wife. She might have a completely different view on these things. So I always reserve my decision.
Yeah, something to think about, isn't it?
But yeah, it might have been a lot harder if I was in Spain for 12 months and there was sangria and paella everywhere because it's pretty sweet.
It is pretty great over here, but I think I've noticed as I've gotten older that the payoff is just not there in terms of like, what the next day is going to be. And more times out of not, it's like, you know what, I will just have 2 or 3 now because you just don't have time to just deal with the next day, which is generally brutal.
Yeah,
I feel I'm getting
part of getting older and not dealing with a hangover as well.
I feel I'm dealing with it a little bit better as I get a bit older. Just learning to
that was
power through and take not take the next day for granted.
I never used to get hangovers. That was the problem. Like I'd drink probably what you call a ridiculous amount on a week. I would have a bottle of red wine on a weeknight going back sort of 10 years ago. And I would wake up fine. I'd still be at work at 7 o'clock watching Matthew play stick cricket. I was actually doing work. He was playing stick cricket. And I'd still be there at 7 p.m. beavering away at work. It was productive time. It didn't really affect me. So yeah, maybe it's because I was drinking too much at the time and my body's got used to it. Where if I probably had a glass now, I'd be like, sprawled out on the ground.
I say, do you have a fear of the scene in Old School where it touches Will Ferrell's lips for the first time in a long time? It's like,
we're streaking. We're streaking through the quadrangle. Yeah, I do worry that one day that I'll be running, just running naked down the street, and my wife will pop with her girlfriends in the car and just ask me to get in the car because I'm that drunk.
We get KFC.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know what happened next. I might have a drink tomorrow. I might not have a drink for another month. Who knows? It's just these are the things though. Like yeah, that's the beauty of, I guess it's kind of the beauty of life. You can change whatever you want, whenever you want, and it doesn't really make too much difference.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call in terms of nothing is permanent. But I would certainly encourage, I mean, obviously there's support services out there for anyone that is, because we know that alcohol can be a challenging thing, but I definitely do enjoy and look forward to my month off every year, just as a nice little bit of a reset. So it'd be interesting to hear how you go with November, Matty, and whenever you do decide to break the back of it, Kane.
Yeah, and Matty, in the meantime, yes, give those caramel 12s to your kids as well. You know.
No way, mate. No way. Can I make a quick observation before we wrap this one up? It's a little bit off topic here, but for those loyal viewers who are listening, you can't see this, but each week it looks like we have a bit of a desktop theme going here. And I'm just wondering if the EBITS is, you know, in lieu of, or sorry, related to the activity he's going on today. Because I've got a cardboard box like a poor man. Kane's got a brick wall. So I don't know what to read into that one. And Ebert has got a laptop and a coffee cup and a notepad. Ebert?
Yeah. I like to use the desktop backgrounds for a couple of reasons. One, because I don't want to rub into the people that I work with that I am jollying around various parts of the world. So desktop backgrounds help. Plus also if you got like washing the background or just, you know, shit going on, it's just nice. But yeah, today is a timber desk with the computer, the coffee and the notepad, heading into my very exciting Sunday afternoon, which is corporate finance and accounting financial analysis for my MBA. So it's trying to get me in the mood for, you know, a day of study ahead whilst neglecting the joys of southern Spain, unfortunately.
Well, that will definitely improve your quality of sleep studying that stuff.
I don't know. I'm going to need a lot of coffees to get through it. So
yeah, it's just counter it. Well, yeah, it's a good place to wrap up for this week. And I wish I had a box in my background like you, Matthew. I've just got washing. So remember to subscribe to Dad Eats Last on iTunes. If you haven't done already, while you're there, please leave a review. Also, tell your mates about the podcast, especially if they are guys. Most of all, thanks for listening. And we'll be back next week with another episode, or should I say serving, of Dad Eats Last. How's that for a dad joke? Catch you next week.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.